Devaki Putra Geetam.
Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Geetam.
Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani.
Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani.
Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva.
Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Geetam.
Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Geetam.
Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani.
Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani.
Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva.
Karmani Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva.
Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Geetam.
Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani.
Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani.
Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva.
Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva.
So Prabhupada, he kind of writes the book together. In this present day, people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion and one occupation. Therefore, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Geetam. Let there be one scripture only. One common scripture for the whole world, Bhagavad Gita. Eko Devaki Putra Eva. Let there be one God for the whole world, Sri Krishna. Eko mantra tasya namani. And one hymn, one mantra, one prayer, the chanting of his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karmapya ekam tasya devasya seva. And let there be one word only, the service of the personality of God. So this is a verse from Gita Mahatmya. So Gita Mahatmya is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. It appears in Padma Purana. So in the conversation, Parvati Devi, she asks Lord Shiva that there are so many, the scriptures are so wide and there are so many instructions that conflict with one another. In different scriptures, there are different gods. Somebody says Lord Ganesh, somebody says you, Lord Shiv, somebody says Indra, and then Parvati Devi, of course, she's playing the role of a simple woman, and she says, for a simple person like me, it's very difficult. I can't read all the scriptures, and Parvati Devi, of course, knows everything, but she's playing that role. She says, I can't, it's difficult for me understanding all the scriptures, reading all this, I get confused. So tell me one thing that is definitive. And then Lord Shiva, he recites the Gita Mahatmya, and he says that Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gita, that only one Shastra needs to be read. And why does he say only one Shastra? Because it is the essence of all the scriptures. That the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita condense in them all the knowledge that is coming in the entire length and breadth of the scriptures. And how it does that, we'll talk about it. And the question is that what makes the Bhagavad Gita so special? And he says, Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. So Eva in Sanskrit means a strong emphasis. And he says because it is spoken by the person who only has the right to be considered as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Devaki Putra. So he wants to make sure there's no ambiguity. He says Devaki Putra Eva. That if there has to be one God, that will be Krishna. And Krishna is the one who has spoken Bhagavad Gita, which makes it so special. And then the question comes that, okay, I understand Krishna is God, I understand that Bhagavad Gita has been given to us, I read it, so what do I do? And then he said, Eka mantra tasya namani. That this is what the Bhagavad Gita tells us. That no need to perform so many kinds of spiritual activities. No need to perform so many kinds of material rituals. Just chanting of the name of Krishna. Karmapi eva tasya devasya seva. So in terms of what would nurture this chanting, it is devasya seva. So the word devasya actually means Krishna and his associates. So then Lord Shiv, he casts the wider net, because he wants to make sure that one does not develop this exclusive kind of a notion that there is only me and Krishna and everybody else is superfluous. So then he says devasya seva, that one must serve Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So if you have to discuss with somebody the super excellent position of Bhagavad Gita, why you read it, there is a lot of empirical evidence. It's one of the most read spiritual books, one of the most published pieces of spiritual literature in the world after the Bible, one of the most translated books. There's a lot of empirical evidence. This is the Shastric evidence that Lord Shiv, who is so knowledgeable that he gives knowledge to Lord Brahma, he gives knowledge to the four Kumars, he is making this statement that one scripture only, read the Bhagavad Gita. So, a question to you, where does the Bhagavad Gita appear?
It's in Bhagavad.
Which part of the Mahabharata? So Kurukshetra is the place like where it is. Which part of the Mahabharata?
Bhishma Parva.
When the fight is, the battle is about.
It is in the Bhishma Parva. When in the Bhishma Parva the actual battle is being fought. So we may not have read the Mahabharata. I think we may have seen the Mahabharata in Ramanand Sagar, right? Ramanand Sagar.
B.R. Chopra.
B.R. Chopra, B.R. Sorry. So we may have seen it, and it's actually not a very inaccurate depiction. It seems to have a fair bit of research. Of course, he doesn't do a lot of philosophy, but it's Mahabharata is like what you would call like a blockbuster. It has all the ingredients in it. There are powerful princes, there are beautiful princes, there is intrigue, there is chivalry, there is all kinds of romantic interludes that are happening. On top of that, there is political intrigue. On top of that, there is this whole strongly religious, spiritual fervor that is going on. It's really one of those unput downable page turners. Once you start reading the Mahabharata, even if you know the story of the Mahabharata, which almost everybody knows, very difficult to put the Mahabharata down, because it is such an intriguing set of incidents that really draw our attention. And the climax of the Mahabharata is the time when the battle is going to be fought. So imagine the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that 18 Akshunis of armies are standing over there, and in those armies are some of the greatest warriors of the universe that are standing. People who have fought and defeated personalities like Indra. So Arjuna had fought and defeated Indra. Bhishma Dev, he had fought and defeated Parshuram. Dronacharya, the son of Bhagavad Rishi, Ashwatthama, he had received the blessings of being immortal. Bhishma Dev had received the blessing of being able to die only when he desires to die. Some of the most fearsome weapons were over there. And they were all, so Kshatriyas live to fight. So they're all standing over there with an itchy trigger finger or an itchy bowstring finger there, ready to start releasing their bows and arrows, and everybody's attention is focused on the battle of Kurukshetra. The Brahma Rishis, the sages, the demigods, the whole mankind, everybody's attention is focused on the battle of Kurukshetra. And what happens then? The Bhagavad Gita is spoken at the time. So the acharyas say the whole purpose of the Mahabharata is to draw the attention of the people to the point when the Bhagavad Gita is spoken. So it's not that Bhagavad Gita, it's not Mahabharata is a story, but it's a set of pastimes that Krishna has enacted that successively attracts the attention of the audiences, and when the attention is most heightened, at that time, Krishna, it's when all the senses are fully open. The eyes are fully open to let me not miss an arrow that goes by. The ears are fully open. Let me hear all the battle sounds. The intelligence and mind is fully open. That time Krishna drops the pearl of Bhagavad Gita. So in the whole 100,000 verses of the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita is a very small part, just 700 verses. But it is actually the anchor that holds that is the reason for which the Mahabharata was enacted. So the Mahabharata was first spoken by Vaishampaya Rishi in the court of Janjaya. So Janjaya is the son of Maharaj Parikshit. So when Maharaj Parikshit gave up his body, and then after that his son Janjaya, he took over the kingdom, and he was very like his father, like his ascendants, the Pandavas, very very pious. So he would spend most of his time listening to the pastimes of his ancestors, and he requested Vaishampaya. Vaishampaya Muni is a disciple of Vyasadeva. So he requested him to speak about the Bhagavad Gita. According to some acharyas, the Bhagavad Gita was actually recited by Sanjay to Dhritarashtra on the 10th day of the battle. So even though the Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the first day, but Dhritarashtra was not interested in listening to it. He was more like, who's killed, let me know are my sons winning or not. So on the 10th day, something special happened in the battle. So does anybody know what happened on the 10th day of somebody else? What happened on the 10th day of the battle?
Krishna, I think, tried to kill Krishna with a word.
Something else happened on the 10th day? So on the 10th day of the battle, Bhishma Dev dies. So till the time that Bhishma Dev was alive, Dhritarashtra was like, it's just a matter of time before we win the battle. Because nobody could really stand in front of Bhishma Dev. Even Parshuram, you all know that he was so powerful that he emptied the whole world of Kshatriyas over and over again. I think 21 times he killed the Kshatriyas. So, and he had Ichha Mrityu Vardhan. So Dhritarashtra was, he was watching these back and forth going on, but he knew that eventually Bhishma Dev would prevail. On the 10th day, Arjun, he does not really kill Bhishma Dev, but he shoots so many arrows that Bhishma Dev he cannot fight anymore. And Dhritarashtra is completely bewildered at this point, that what's going to happen. So in this complete state of bewilderment, he turns to Sanjay, says, what exactly was Krishna speaking to Arjun right at the beginning of the battle? And then Sanjay, he recites the Bhagavad Gita to him. So in a way, we are all Dhritarashtras. So Prabhupada says that Dhritarashtra was blind by birth, but he was also spiritually blind. Because Krishna was present right in front of him, but he never accepted Krishna. That's our situation. So we may be able to see things around us, but Krishna is present right in front of us. He is present in the word form, in the Bhagavad Gita, he's present in the deity form. He's present in the form of his name. But by the mercy of Guru, sooner or later, we will. In the case of Dhritarashtra, he came out of an unhappy set of situation that he was so bewildered that he needed some solace, and he said that he told Sanjay that Dhritarashtra is dead. There is no hope for us. There is nothing that's going to happen. Tell me what Krishna spoke to Arjuna to pacify him. And for us, the state of bewilderment is perpetual. Every day morning it starts. It doesn't even end when we go to sleep because we dream about it. But then I dream about my meetings the next day. What am I going to speak about it, and how am I going to present my projects? And so it doesn't even end when we sleep. The state of bewilderment is perpetual. And the solace that we have is the Prabhupada's mercy. We have the Bhagavad Gita in front of us. So a few words about Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada calls the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And any ideas? Why did Prabhupada call the Bhagavad Gita as it is? Jani?
He tried to be truthful to the essence of what was written exactly in the Bhagavad Gita, instead of trying to put in his interpretation of the verse.
Very good. So one of the things that we will see or we have already seen is sometimes you look at a translation of the verse, and then Prabhupada does the word by word translation and then the translation, and then you'll see when you read the Bhagavad Gita that the word to word translation does not sync up completely with the translation. Somewhere Krishna has used the word yoga, and when Prabhupada translates it, he calls it bhakti. Right. And somewhere, the word that is given is a little bit open to interpretation, and Prabhupada always interprets it in a flavor that encourages bhakti. So even though Prabhupada was not planning to write a scholarly Bhagavad Gita. His Sanskrit translations are not accurate from the perspective of being scholarly. So if a Sanskrit scholar would look at the verses and try to match up the translations, he would say this word does not really translate into this word. There are other Bhagavad Gitas that have those kinds of translations. Yet Srila Prabhupada says that this is Bhagavad Gita as it is, because it preserves the essence of what Krishna wants to say. So that's the most important part. And as practicing devotees, we are not Sanskrit scholars. We do not know either way, one way or the other, what we are. Why are we reading the Bhagavad Gita? We are reading the Bhagavad Gita so that we can increase our faith in the process that we are following, so that we can develop more nishtha into the process of bhakti. And that is exactly why Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita. And that is exactly how Srila Prabhupada translates it. So Srila Prabhupada's translation is completely true to what Krishna is saying in the context of what Krishna wants us to do. There are more than 3,000 translations of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is back in the 1960s. So there are probably even more now, 5,000 maybe, translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Everybody wants to translate because Bhagavad Gita is such a wonderful piece of literature. And then Prabhupada makes the point that majority of them miss the mark. Not because the majority, many of them may be great Sanskrit scholars, but they miss the mark because they do not understand the spirit in which Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. And how do you understand the spirit in which Krishna speaks the Bhagavad Gita? Is by submitting to the parampara. That's the only way that you can understand the spirit in which Krishna is speaking. That is why when we approach the Bhagavad Gita, we approach it in a very, very humble mode. We approach it through the Manglacharan, we approach it through Kirtan, we approach it through Jap. In our mind, we pray to our spiritual master or the Vaishnava Acharyas, because only when we are in that mood does Krishna reveal himself through the Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, the Bhagavad, what Prabhupada at one point says, that Bhagavad Gita is an open secret that is available to all but accessible to a very few. Rajneesh,
one question, Prabhu. Did Sanjay had any interpretation when he was giving commentary, as he was listening and seeing, telling to Dhritarashtra, did he say as it is, or is it his words to Dhritarashtra which is Bhagavad Gita? I'm sure it's not, but how did it happen?
So he was basically just repeating whatever Krishna was. So Bhagavad Gita is essentially conversation between Krishna and Arjuna.
That's right.
So he was basically repeating whatever
Verbatim.
whatever he was hearing. Okay, any other questions? So a little bit of understanding of the introduction. So I recommended that all of you read the introduction. A very, very powerful piece of literature, and Prabhupada has set it based on what is known as Das Mool Tattva. So Das Mool Tattva are the 10 essential pieces of understanding in the field of spirituality. So this is explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and I won't go into the rigor. You can read the introduction and correlate different parts of the introductions to the different moolas. So Tattva means eternal truths, and Mool means root. So there are 10 essential truths. So the first Mool Tattva is that the Vedas are the Vedas are absolute. So it's very important for it's very important for us to accept this as the basis, because the Bhagavad Gita is part of the Vedas. If we do not accept the Vedas to be absolute, then we do not accept Krishna as God, we do not accept Bhagavad Gita as bona fide. We can never understand the Bhagavad Gita. So the Vedas speak of many things. It speaks about oceans of milk, oceans of sugarcane juice, speaks about mountains of gold, speaks about elephants with 6 tusks. It almost sounds like fairy tale. It speaks about people who can travel in air, who can change forms, about battles with magical weapons. The Vedas speak about all of that, and because of that, many people start calling the Vedas mythological. So myth means that it's just a story. Unfortunately, a lot of Indians, they start calling the Vedas that they are mythological stories. So as long as your mind is anchored in that conception that the Vedas are mythological, you can never develop that faith in the philosophical part of the Vedas. So all that Vedas describe to us in terms of the pastimes of those super fantastic creatures, that is as factual as the Upanishads that are there in the Vedas, where deep philosophy is discussed. They are both on the same platform. So in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that in order to understand the Bhagavad Gita, you have to accept Krishna to be God. If you don't accept Krishna to be God, everything that is said in the Bhagavad Gita becomes subject to speculation. So then Krishna is just another personality. Krishna says something, you read it and you say, okay, Krishna says this, I think this, maybe Krishna really doesn't mean that, so you interpret it in your own way. or two verses you accept, the third verse you don't accept. I said this part of the Bhagavad Gita I accept, this part of the Bhagavad Gita I don't. So this kind of relativism will come if you do not accept Krishna as God. Now accepting Krishna as God itself is a journey. All of us are sitting over here because at least to some extent we have accepted Krishna as God. But we haven't fully accepted Krishna as God. If we fully accepted Krishna as God, then our chanting would be pure, our service of the deity would be completely absorbed. But it's not, it's a journey. It's a journey that we all travel, where from the mind it comes to the heart, where we realize that Krishna is God. But Prabhupada says that is sufficient. If you just theoretically accept Krishna to be God, that is sufficient for you to read the Bhagavad Gita, because at least then you have faith in what he says. And how does that faith grow? So it's very much like you go to a new city, you fall sick over there, or let's assume you fall sick there, and you go to a doctor. So you don't have a relationship with the doctor, but somebody tells you that this is a good doctor, whatever it is, you go to the doctor, he prescribes you some medicine, you take the medicine and you become well. The next time you fall sick, you go back to the same doctor, he prescribes you some other medicine, you become well again. So now you know that this person is a trustworthy doctor. So, I think I want to...
Downstairs.
The phone.
What should I do?
Let me go down.
Somebody's having fun again.
नीचे बच्चे खेल रहे हैं ना इंटरव्यू
Okay. So in this way, our faith in that person who is giving us medicine increases to the point that it will become implicit. Similarly, we start the Bhagavad Gita with some faith in Krishna. Krishna asks us to do something in this. For instance, he says that he promotes the quality of equanimity, that be equal to honor and dishonor, to fame and blame, be equal to it. And he says that's the way to becoming a dhira. So based on that soft faith that we have on Krishna, we try to practice equanimity. And as we practice equanimity, we see that the things that are happening around us actually impact us lesser and lesser, as Krishna had promised. So this becomes the process of the cyclical increase of faith in Krishna. Krishna tells us something, we do it, the results that Krishna promises are delivered. So our faith in Krishna increases, we read the Bhagavad Gita again, Krishna gives us more instructions, we follow those instructions, whatever Krishna promises, it happens again, and our faith in Krishna grows. So that's why the Bhagavad Gita is it's a living representative of Krishna. Every time you read the Bhagavad Gita, you will get different realization. Krishna gives you different instructions to follow, with the understanding that as you follow that instructions, your faith in Krishna will grow. So one is never done reading Bhagavad Gita. It's a journey that we follow for the rest of our lives. Every time we read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will give us some new instructions. Many times those instructions will be relevant to the situation that we are in. Whether we are in a good or a bad situation, we'll get some new. The same verse you might read, you might get a different realization. That's just Krishna giving you a different instruction. But one thing that we have to, in order to get anything out of the Bhagavad Gita, is to anchor this in our mind that the Vedas are absolute. If you question the Vedas, then very difficult for you to get anything out of the Vedas. Then of the other 9, and I won't go into the details, the other 9 are divided into 3 categories. The first category is called Sambandha, in which Krishna first talks about himself. Who am I? The second category is Jiva, in which Krishna talks about us. And the third category is the relationship between Krishna and the Jiva. So these are the three aspects of Sambandhya. And the last two tattvas, the ninth and the 10th, are Avidya and Prayojan. So having understood the nature of the relationship between us and Krishna, what do we do to achieve that relationship? That's Avidya. And having achieved the relationship, what is it that we get as a result of being in that relationship? That is Prayojan. So Bhagavad Gita is a book of Sambandhya. That is why it is considered to be the foundation of our devotional life. So unless we understand the nature of a relationship with Krishna, how can we hope to establish it? And far alone enjoy that relationship. It's like when two people meet, the first thing that they try and establish is what's the nature of our relationship? Are we competitors? Are we friends? Are we enemies? Are we well-wishers? So that's in the relationship there is the two people and the relationship. The three aspects are there. So unless the sambandh is properly established, you cannot actually go to the next stage of establishing that relationship. First you have to understand what's the nature of the relationship. In India it's very typical, and there's a reason for it, that like when you meet, especially as children, when you meet strangers, immediately you're told this is Mamaji, or this is Mangu Bhaiya, or this is so and so Didi, and so immediately that that relationship is right away told to you, and there's a reason for that, because then you don't have to figure out the nature of the relationship. It's missing away. Everybody is named. Everybody is like John and Henry and Mary and everyone. They try and figure out the relationship. But in India, you see that right at the beginning, when we went to India back with Dhruv, we were a little confused. He said, "I'm confused. I have so many bhaiyas and didis and chachas and chachis," and then everybody would insist that and Dhruv would say that Harish. He would say, "No, Harish Mama." And then you would say, "Okay, this is Harish Mama, and this is this Chacha and Tao." But everybody, makes it very clear what's the sambandh. Because if there's somebody who's older to you, the relationship is one of respect. It's a peer. Then it's one of camaraderie. If it is one who's younger to you, then it's one in which you have a commanding relationship. And so the Avidya part then follows more naturally. Otherwise it gets confusing. Right? There's an older person and you're saying, "Can you get me a glass of water?" And that person is saying, I'm this guy's, even I get confused because I don't go to India very often. Sometimes, like I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, I'm your, Mamera Chacha or something like, they're like in the second or third level relationship, which I have no idea about. But basically in that relationship, he's much higher to me. And then, he says, I'm a this. And I say, okay, now I understand that this is the nature of the relationship. So someone is very, very important. And that's one reason why a lot of people who are practicing spirituality are not able to achieve their, the desired results because they don't know. They don't know what's the relationship with Krishna. Well, how can you practice a relationship unless you understand the nature of the relationship? Bhagavad Gita is the book of Sambandhya. Once you read Bhagavad Gita, you clearly understand who is Krishna, you clearly understand who are you, and you clearly understand what's the nature of the relationship. So when Srila Prabhupada established 4 books to be read by all his disciples, as SARB, he said ideally you should read all my books, but 4 books he said you absolutely have to read. The first book was Bhagavad Gita, because that established Sambandhya. Second book was Isopanishad. Isopanishad was also an explanation on the relationship between Isha, which is God, and us. And the other 2 books were the Nectar of Instruction, Updeshamrita, is Avidya. That what do you do to establish that relationship. And nectar of devotion is prayojan. And what happens once that relationship is established? What are the symptoms that the devotees experience? What is the ecstasy of being engaged in pure devotional service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So that's the reason he mandated that these 4 books should be read at least by all his disciples. So I'll take a break here, see if there's any questions, comments.
You are telling in Sambandha there are 7 principles are there, right, Prabhu?
Sambandha there are 3 principles.
What are they?
So in Sambandha, the 3 is who are you,
Oh yeah.
who is Krishna, and what's the nature of the relationship.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I was asking in terms of the Dashamula principles.
Oh, in terms of Dashmul. So in terms of the Dashmul of the 7 principles, 3 describe Krishna, 3 describe the Jiva, and 1 describes the relationship.
Thanks.
Yeah?
Well, I have a question about the Mahamantra itself. So, it's about Krishna, right? So why does Rama appear in the Mahamantra? I understand they're reincarnations, but it's a different era too, right? And Krishna has had lots of.
Yeah, but in the Mahamantra, it's a bit of a detour, I guess. In the Mahamantra, the word Ram speaks about the quality of Krishna being Ramyate. So Ramyate, which is the same as it's applicable to Lord Ram. So Ramyate means that one who completely permeates you. Krishna means one who is all attractive, one who completely attracts you. And Ramyate is one who completely permeates you. So when we say Hare Krishna and Hare Ram, they are both referring to the personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada would say that, Lord Ram is again non-different from Krishna. So even if you think that Ram is Lord Ram, still another name of Krishna. Even if you think Lord Ram is Balaram, still another, because they are incarnations of Krishna in a way that they are non-different. But the way that the Acharya explains that it talks about, because when you're chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are basically approaching Krishna most intimately. So we are talking about those qualities of Krishna that are most dear to his devotees. The fact that he attracts everybody, and the fact that he gives indescribable pleasure to one who comes close to him. So that is Krishna and Ram. Yeah? Other questions?
Actually, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken on bhakti because at that particular moment, the most essential thing for Arjuna was to clear his doubt and establish it's kind of self-realization, where you see the soul and relationship is talking about more, and then the battle starts next. So I don't understand, is there the right time to say about bhakti, in the middle of what?
So, I guess 2 ways to look at it. One way is that it's always the right time to say bhakti, right? The second is that when you're in a situation that you're exposed to trials and tribulations, that is the mostest rightest time to speak bhakti, because that's when you really need Krishna. Arjun could have won the battle based on his progress, right? But what would he have gotten? All the doubts that he put in the Bhagavad Gita were genuine doubts. He could have won the battle and he would have been miserable after that. The reason that he was able to survive after the battle was because of the fact that he did not fight the battle to win. He fought the battle on the instructions of Krishna. Right? So look at it from Arjun's perspective, that he fights the 18 days of Mahabharata. He kills his grandfather, he kills his brothers, he has won it, how would he have survived that? Right? No way that he could have survived. The only reason he could survive it because Krishna says that ultimately you fight because I ask you to do so. That was what, and that is essentially bhakti. Ultimately you do something that Krishna will ask you to do. So, sorry, any other questions?
One question. One is the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Arjuna and Shri Krishna, right? So anybody else were listening to that, or and when he showed his true presence, what he did was that Sanjay was able to see that, or anybody else was able to see that?
It's a good question. So, Prabhupada says that the Bhagavad Gita was spoken openly and everybody was able to listen to it. Sanjay, of course, was listening to it, but it was spoken openly in plain view for everybody. And in terms of his Virat Roop, Prabhupada says that those who had the pious merits to be able to see it were able to see it. So not everybody in the battlefield, but those who had the prowess to see were able to witness it.
One more question. When you talk about whenever you read Bhagavad Gita, it will give you some other meaning. So is it because of the words we've been using the verses, or it's the whole sentence, or how does we get it? I'm just trying to understand with some example or something.
Yeah, difficult for me to. It's more experiential. Difficult for me to explain it, but it's something that you'll experience it yourself. That you read the verse and you get some realization out of it. Or even Prabhupada's purport. You read Prabhupada's purport and say, okay, and then you later on you're in a different situation. You read it again, and then you get a different set of realizations. It's not that you get contradictory realizations, but you get deeper realization, or you get different perspectives on it. But something that has to be kind of explained. It does not really, it does not really line up with cold logic. It's more emotional aspect of it. Yeah. Anybody else? You have a question?
Bhagavad Gita is spoken in the battlefield, and Krishna is actually promoting Arjuna to go for a war and fight and kill. But still, in general, we never see in Hinduism, at least we can say that people going on war on the name of Bhagavad Gita. Whereas if we see Quran, with no offense, is there something wrong that with the scripture, or only it is always with the people there is wrong that they go for war? So what is actually wrong, or where it went wrong?
So you're saying it's wrong that people read the Bhagavad Gita and don't go on war?
No. What I'm saying is, although it is told in the battlefield and Krishna is promoting him to fight, we generally don't see that Hindus going on wars on the name of Bhagavad Gita. Whereas Quran, it was written for a period of time in a different place. But still people go on war. So is it the mistake of the people, or something tricky is there with Quran for people to understand?
It's a bit of a loaded question. Naturally, if somebody does sinful activities on the basis of scriptures, it's a fault of the people. That part is clear. If somebody uses the Quran to kill somebody, it's obviously the fault of the person. Now, why people don't go to battle after reading Bhagavad Gita? Probably because Krishna doesn't ask Arjuna to fight. Krishna asks Arjuna to surrender. There's a difference between the two, right? He does not ask Arjuna to fight, because if Arjuna fought right in the second chapter, in the beginning of the second chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna, fight. Arjuna doesn't even listen to that. He does not even respond to that. So Arjuna doesn't fight because Krishna, 9 times in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks Arjuna to fight, and Arjuna never fights, right? When Krishna says, Mamekam Sharanam Vaj, then Arjuna fights, right? So he is not following Krishna's instructions to fight.
Yes.
He's following Krishna's instructions to surrender. The last thing that Arjuna tells Krishna is, whatever you ask me to do, now I will do it. Right? Which happened at that time to be that you engage in.
Yes.
And that's probably one reason why people read Bhagavad Gita, understand this. It's not a book of inciting war.
Yeah.
It's a book for surrender. Okay? Good question. Anything else? Prabhu?
Prabhuji, I don't know if I heard this, and this is a wrong info, but just wanted some clarity on this. So, Arjuna, Sri Krishna, the chariot and the horses, I've heard like they being compared with a metaphor or symbolism. Basically, the chariot being our body, horses being the senses, and Arjuna being intelligence. Is that true or no?
I've heard that myself, and it's one of those things that Prabhupada never said that. So that's one thing. Prabhupada never said that. Now, having said that, it's one of those things that sometimes the acharyas they give us some glimpses into things to help us see. Like remember when we do the Damodar Leela, right? So the acharyas give us so much of insight into every action that may seem very common. Like Krishna comes up and stops his mother from churning the milk, and the acharyas say that in a way, it is Krishna stopping his devotees from churning the Vedas with karma and jnana, right? Now, it does not mean that Mother Yashoda is the jiva and the ropes are karma and jnana and the milk are the Vedas. But sometimes the acharyas, and that is the special insight that they have. They basically read the pastimes and they also help us understand what are the philosophical lessons that can be gathered from there. So I have heard that several times in different places, that these are the senses and Krishna is our intelligence and all that. So you can take it for what it is, but essentially it should not in any way mitigate our understanding that no, there was Krishna, the personality of Godhead, sitting on the chariot, and there was his devotee Arjuna sitting behind. Okay. So I have a few minutes. I just wanted to give you some more details about an overview of the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita can also be read thematically. So there are 5 prominent themes that come in the Bhagavad Gita. And so we won't do it thematically. We are doing it sequentially. But the 5 themes that Krishna, the 700 verses, are organized around these 5 themes. And these 5 themes are, so you should be knowing these themes in the, yes, one, tell me one.
Krishna is the God.
It's about Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita speaks about Krishna. What else does Bhagavad Gita, what else does Bhagavad Gita speak about? Somebody else? Bhagavad Gita speaks about Jiva. What else does Bhagavad Gita speak about?
Prakriti.
Okay, one at a time. Okay. Bhagavad Gita speaks about Prakriti. 3. Speaks about karma. 4. 5th thing that the Bhagavad Gita speaks about is Kal. Time. So these are the 5 themes that Bhagavad Gita speaks about. Speaks about Krishna, speaks about Jiva, speaks about Prakriti, speaks about Kal, and speaks about Karma. Of these 5 things, 4 are eternal and 1 is temporary. Which is the one that is temporary? These are all exam questions. Which is the one that is temporary?
Prakriti.
Huh? Prakriti is not Prakriti. I mean, there are 5 answers to it. Huh? Kal is not. It's not Kal. Karma. So karma is not eternal, because if karma was eternal, there was no point of Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So if karma cannot be changed, then what's the point in doing devotional service? Everybody is bound by the law of karma. Karma is eternal, which means that, so there is no karma mamsha. It means that, as I sow, so shall I reap. So my future is controlled by only one person. and that is me. Right. So that would mean that karma is eternal. But Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita that karma can be erased. How can karma be erased?
By bhakti.
Through the process of bhakti. So bhakti makes karma transient. Every time we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, more sins that you can imagine that you can commit are erased. Every time you give obeisances to the deities, every time you take the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava and put it on your head, so many sins get erased. Every time you circumambulate Tulsi Devi, so many sins get erased. That is all the impermanence of karma. Other than that, the other four things are eternal. Krishna is always there. Jiva is always there. Prakriti is changing. The material nature is changing, but it's eternal. It is always there. Kal is always there. So these are the 5 themes that the Bhagavad Gita speaks about. The Bhagavad Gita is also divided into 3 sections. What are the 3 sections?
Gyan, Bhakti. Bhakti in the center.
Please. Please don't speak out. So the 3 sections are karma, jnana and bhakti. So the first 6 chapters speak about what? Karma. The first 6 chapters speak about karma. The last 6 chapters speak about jnana. And the middle 6 chapters are about bhakti. Prabhupada would give the example like when a king comes, the king has guards in front and behind, and in the middle is the most important personality, the king. Or just like an oyster, there are hard shells in the front and the back, and in the middle there is the pearl. So Krishna is guarding the most precious thing that he is giving us, the pearl of bhakti, by the shell of karma and jnana. So these 3 sections and these follows, so chapter 1 to 6 are predominantly talking about karma. Chapter 7 to 12 talking about bhakti. And chapter 13 to 18 are talking about jnana. So there are 3 nested conversations that are happening in the Bhagavad Gita. The innermost conversation is happening between Krishna and Arjuna. Outside that conversation is the conversation that is happening between Dhritarashtra and Sanjay. And outside that is the conversation that is happening between Srila Vyasadeva and us. Because the narration of the Bhagavad Gita is done in the Mahabharata by Srila Vyasadeva to us. So these are the 3 nested conversations that are happening. So there are 4 speakers in the Bhagavad Gita. So name one speaker. Krishna. Speaker number 2. Sanjay. Speaker number 3. Arjuna. And Dhritarashtra. So who speaks the most verses in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna. So Krishna is pretty chatty. So of the 700 verses, Krishna speaks the most number of verses, and you don't have to write it down. I'll send you the PowerPoint. So Krishna speaks 574 verses of the 700 verses. The second most active speaker is Arjuna. So Arjuna speaks 85 verses. Out of the 85 verses, he asks 24 questions. Questions are important, 10. I'll send them to you later. So the Bhagavad Gita is anchored around the 24 questions that Arjuna asks. And Krishna answers these 24 questions in the 574 verses. There is one personality that speaks 11 verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Who is that?
Sanjay. Sanjay.
No, Sanjay actually speaks more verses. Sanjay speaks 31 verses. No, Dhritarashtra speaks only one verse.
First one, yeah.
First verse. There is one personality that speaks 11 verses.
Duryodhana.
Duryodhana. So Duryodhana speaks 11 verses. Right in the first chapter, right after Dhritarashtra speaks, he says, Kim Kurvata Sanjaya, what's going on over here? And Sanjay, out of affection to Dhritarashtra, he says, let me tell you what your son is speaking. And then he speaks the 11 verses of what Duryodhana speaks.
So these 11 verses are included in the 31 verses of Sanjaya Prabhu.
Oh, I'm sorry, Duryodhana speaks 9 verses, not 11 verses, 9 verses. No, they are not included in the 31 verses.
Question to you.
Yes, Prabhu.
When this Sanjay is explaining to Dhritarashtra, during that time Duryodhana should be in the battlefield.
Duryodhana is the battlefield, yes.
How come now Duryodhana asks what is happening to Dhritarashtra and Sanjay?
Duryodhana doesn't ask what's happening to Dhritarashtra. The verses that Duryodhana speaks are the verses that he speaks to his general, encouraging them to fight.
Okay, not with the
Yeah. The other thing of significance is names. So you'll see as we go through the chapter that Krishna and Arjuna have different names, and each name has a particular significance. So Krishna is has 41 different names in Bhagavad Gita, and of that 41 different names, the most often used name is Krishna, which is he used 10 times, followed by Keshav, that is used 7 times. Arjuna is called by 23 different names, and the most common name is Partha. And why is Partha the most common name?
Son of Pritha.
Because son of Pritha. So Prabhupada makes this point that Krishna, he reminds Arjuna over and over again that, and so Krishna has a very difficult task that in his devotees he wants to glorify his devotee, but he wants to keep them humble also. So he is trying to remind Arjuna that you're the son of Pritha, and Pritha is my mother's sister. So because we have this family connection, I'm your charioteer, I'm helping you out over here. So he reminds him again and again of the family connection. So he calls him Parth 40 times, followed by, of course, Arjuna. So the Bhagavad Gita begins with the word Dharma, and Krishna's instructions end with the word Dharma. So the acharyas say that by which we can understand that Bhagavad Gita is a book of Dharma. There is one word that is not used in the Bhagavad Gita, which is Hindu. So there is no reference to any religion in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna never tells Arjuna that follow your Hindu religion, or the word Hindu does not appear anywhere in the Bhagavad Gita. And acharyas say that's because Bhagavad Gita is not a book of religion. It is a book of spirituality. So what's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Religion is the set of...
If you can... Somebody else? What's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Religion is organized.
Spirituality is disorganized?
It's not organized in that way.
Religion is, I think, on top of the spirituality, there is another layer I think that tells of like customs and behaviors, what the community that follows that religion should follow. So it's not just spirituality; is one more layer of
Truth.
Is it philosophy versus protocol?
I think spirituality is agnostic to religion.
Spirituality is what?
Is agnostic to religion. I think
Spirituality is agnostic to religion.
Spirituality is the goal and religion is the path.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Religion stems from spirituality.
So, yeah. So I think we're kind of in that area, and I heard mostly right answers that spirituality essentially deals with philosophy, and religion deals with practice. So spirituality talks about the philosophical aspects of it. It is by nature non-denominational. So when Krishna says that the relationship of the jiva with God is one of service, doesn't matter. How there are several ways you can practice to put it through. Whether it's through Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or whatever it is, there are several ways that you can do it. So spirituality does not stand on the actual process. So again, think of it in terms of Sambandha and Abhidaya. So Bhagavad Gita is Sambandha. The relationship is not predicated on anything that comes later on. It's vice versa. So Bhagavad Gita is a book of philosophy that talks about the position of Krishna and Jiva and the relationship between the two. How you choose to actually make it happen, that is codified in religion. So like in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, how we choose to make it happen is by chanting the holy name, by worshipping the deities, by worshipping the devotees. So that's how and as we go deeper, there are more do's and don'ts. So one can change religion. Prabhupada says you can change religion, but you cannot change spirituality. Spirituality is, you cannot one day get up and say that, okay, actually the jiva should not serve God, God should serve jiva. You can't make that philosophical alteration. Sometimes people say that, what do they say, that God appears to serve mankind. God is there to serve mankind. So those are philosophical deviations. Basically, they're not even talking about. They're not even in the realm of spirituality. That's why Prabhupada used to be upset at Mahatma Gandhi, because Mahatma Gandhi would do it for political purposes. But at least that's what, when Prabhupada wrote a letter to Mahatma Gandhi, he said, I understand you're doing it for political purposes, but don't do it. Mahatma Gandhi himself he knew, but because he was also a political preacher, he would say things like, Harijan, that there are some people, only the poor people are Harijan, rich people are not Harijan, or the purpose of God is to serve humanity. So you can't change spirituality like that. But if you are anchored in the conception that the purpose of jiva is to serve Krishna, there are different ways that you can serve Krishna. Even in the Vaishnava tradition, there are different ways you can serve Krishna. That gets codified in religion. So that's the difference between spirituality and religion. So I'll stop over here and I'll see if there are questions. Kelly?
Prabhu, I was looking at the disciplic succession list. So Lord Krishna is giving this instruction to Arjun, right? So, and he says that so you can start the succession from this information that is given. So why doesn't Arjun's name appear in that list?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the fourth chapter, when Krishna tells that I'm giving you this information, and he's saying that the disciplic succession that I had established was broken, and that is why I'm giving you this information. So the disciplic succession is basically by based on the readings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So in the Kali Yuga, that disciplic succession may be temporarily broken. But the disciplic succession that is given over here is the succession through which the knowledge comes down from the time of creation. That when Krishna creates the universe, then there is nobody else over there but Brahma. So then he gives the knowledge to Brahma. Brahma's son is Narada. So he gives it to Narada. If you see over here, then you don't even see Arjun's name over here. Now also the disciplic succession, there are 32 entries in there, and it's basically spanning 4 million years, right? So it's not to be taken, that from 1871 to 1878, and not in that context. The information is given more from the prescription of, like you say that Vyasadeva gave it to Madhavacharya. So between Vyasadeva and Madhavacharya, is a difference of 5,000 years. But the reason Madhavacharya considers the knowledge coming from Vyasadeva is because he accepted Vyasadeva as his guru. There's some mystic connection, and he received the knowledge from Vyasadeva. But the essential understanding is that the knowledge is coming through a series of realized souls. So that's the essential understanding. Last question, comment, proof, okay.
One more question, Prabhu. Like, Pritha means like mother, sister, or like father, sister?
What?
Pritha?
No, Partha. Partha means son of Prahlad.
So she was like.
Pritha is the name of Kunti Devi, because she was. Her father's name was Kunti Bhoj. That was the adopted father name, but her birth father's name was Pritha. So that's how she got that name, as the daughter of Pritha. And Arjun got the name Parth as the son of.
Right.
Yes, Prabhu. Did the relationship changed between Krishna and Arjun before and after Bhagavad Gita was spoken? Because they were intimate friends, and then Arjun must have realized. So, how was it manifested?
So the relationship actually changes during the course of the Bhagavad Gita. So you see that in the first chapter, Arjun has a Sakhya-ras, a friendship relationship. Then after 2.11, so when Arjun says Kartanya Doshapata Swabhava, that he says, I don't know what to do. Now I'm a soul surrendered unto you. And Krishna says, Arjun, you fool. So that means the relationship has changed to Vatsalya. Arjun has taken the position of a spiritual master. In the 11th chapter, it changes again, where Krishna shows the universal form, and Arjun says that it becomes one of awe and reverence, because he is in awe and reverence for this form of Krishna. But that Krishna takes away. So, but by the end of it, the normal relationship between Krishna and Arjun is Sakhya. That is the eternal relationship. So it doesn't, even though Arjun always knew Krishna is God. Right? Even before Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, Arjun knew Krishna was God. Right. So that it's not Bhagavad Gita is spoken for us. So it's at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, even though Arjun says, now I understand, but he's always been in the position of being Krishna's devotee. So that relationship still stays. Okay, so we'll stop over here. Thank you very much. And next week we'll do chapter 1.